A new report out tonight reveals that Russian disinformation teams have targeted the special counsel. Two reports commissioned by the Senate Intelligence Committee and focused on the Internet Research Agency control farm Robert Mueller indicted last February. According to one of them, quote, what is clear is that all of the messaging clearly sought to benefit the Republican Party and specifically Donald Trump. The goal was to reinforce tribalism, to polarize and divide, to exploit societal fractures, blur the lines between reality and fiction, erode our trust in media entities and the information environment, in government, in each other, and in democracy itself. The interference is still active and ongoing. And notably, the trolls have tried to create and amplify the narrative that the whole investigation was nonsense, that Comey and Mueller were corrupt, and that the emerging Russia stories were a weird conspiracy pushed by liberal crybabies. Who else? The online posts received nearly 264 million engagements, as they're called, across platforms. That includes likes, retweets, shares. With us to talk about this tonight and its seriousness, Malcolm Nance, veteran of Navy intelligence, special ops, homeland security, 35 years working in counterterrorism. His latest book is called The Plot to Destroy Democracy: How Putin and His Spies Are Undermining America and Dismantling the West. Malcolm, most people, if you ask them, will say, yeah, the schools are in terrible shape, except the one my kid goes to. So as a consumer matter, I'm guessing a lot of people think, I'm too smart for this. I'm not going to go for this propaganda. That couldn't work on me. Tell us what this looks like, what it looked like in 2016, what it still looks like on our phones tonight.
Well, what it looks like is information that is flowing into your telephone. What you think that you're getting across from Facebook and all these other media sources, and, of course, the fake media, as Donald Trump calls it, is just a fundamental part of your day, whether you're listening to AM radio, whether you're reading on Twitter, or you're looking at the photos on Instagram or Pinterest. What Russia has done here, and where the true brilliance of this intelligence operation comes from, is way back in the early 2000s, the Russian military conducted a strategic study and started carrying out a disinformation plan in which they said that instead of carrying out kinetic warfare against your enemies, the best thing we can do is create a disinformation frame around that nation, to the point where over time, as we are constantly tearing them apart and feeding them with false information, they would actually welcome an invasion. So Russia has done that to the United States, and it began way before 2016. As a matter of fact, the earliest references I have with relation to Donald Trump shows that it started back in 2011 with Maria Butina and the NRA contacts with the fundamentalist Christian right and the alt-right in the United States. Russia was pushing these disinformation themes then. Then in 2013, they stood up the Russian Federation Internet Research Agency, which built all of these memes and tropes, which became the cruise missiles of fake news and disinformation designed to do what it did today: take 1/3 of the United States population and make them refuse to believe what they see before their very eyes, and may have elected a president in the process.
And one of your long-held beliefs, which simultaneously breaks my heart, is that they were so good at picking apart our differences, dividing American against American, and knowing such an incredible cost-benefit analysis. It cost them nothing, knowing how to do it easily, that you won't be surprised in the end if they had American help.
Well, absolutely. And the cost of this mission by Russian intelligence, and that's who carried this operation out. The Russian Internet Research Agency was a subcontractor to Russian military intelligence and the FSB, Russia's national security agency. And it was done at the cost of less than a couple of cruise missiles. They now own the mindset of 1/3 of this nation. And by doing that, they have managed to now make us not believe anything that we believed before. That diversity was an American factor which made us greater. They have played on the themes of far-right conspiracy theorists from the 1960s, the John Birch Society, a sideline group, and the farthest extremes of the libertarian parties. They have amplified racism to the point where the alt-right, Steve Bannon's own creation of Gamers, is now the wholly owned subsidiary of the Trump campaign and are believers in David Duke, the Ku Klux Klan, Richard Spencer, the neo-Nazi, and Robert Spencer, the Islamophobe, to the point where they're mainstreamed. This is how effective this information warfare campaign has been carried out. And let me tell you, this report shows how they went after to suppress the African-American vote. And there is no doubt in my mind or anybody else's in the intelligence community that doesn't believe that it took American citizens to assist them in really getting down to where these voters were who needed to be suppressed. And they did it in such a fashion. One of their Twitter groups had 366,000 followers on it.
Wow. Malcolm Nance, this is why we ask you all the time to come on this broadcast. Scary stuff, but it needs to be said, needs to be heard. Thank you, sir, so much for joining us once again. And coming up for us,